This video is brought to you by Ground News. Today, Trump plans to send thousands of migrants to Guantanamo Bay. Germany's conservative opposition break the taboo with AfD support, and Italy's Giorgia Meloni is under investigation after the release of a Libyan warlord. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Thursday the 30th of January, 2025. Yesterday, US President Donald Trump announced that he'd ordered the preparation of a 30,000-person migrant detention facility at the Guantanamo Bay naval base in Cuba. Trump said that the facility would hold the, quote, worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people, and that it would be a tough place to get out of. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that the base could be used to house migrants, while plans are made to deport them to their home countries or a third country. The detention facility at Guantanamo Bay was created by the Bush administration in 2002 to house foreign militant suspects during the global war on terror. And as of today, there are 15 prisoners left at the camp. The facility was infamous for its reported harsh conditions, abuse, and torture under the guise of enhanced interrogation. While the base is on the island of Cuba, it is under American control and operates in a legal grey area. As a result, it's long been condemned by human rights groups like Amnesty International, which in response to Trump's plan, called Guantanamo Bay a site of torture and indefinite detention without charge or trial, adding that Trump should be closing the prison, not repurposing it as an offshore immigrant detention facility. Cuba's president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, called Trump's plan an act of brutality, located in illegally occupied territory of Cuba. Now, it's worth pointing out here that there is an existing migrant detention facility at Guantanamo, which is separate from the high-security military prison, and according to the New York Times, it has for decades been used to house migrants intercepted at sea. But recently only in small numbers, with 37 migrants held there between 2020 and 2023. However, its secretive nature, isolation, and operation outside of standard American legal protection means that there's little public information about the existing migrant facility, although there have been reports and allegations of inhumane conditions, mistreatment, and a lack of accountability at the site. At present, it's unclear what the timeline for expanding the migrant detention facility is, or what the cost might be, or exactly who might be sent there. Since taking office, Trump has signed or directed a blitz of orders aimed at cracking down on asylum and immigration. He's declared a national emergency and deployed military assets to the southern border, limited pathways to asylum, suspended refugee programs, and ramped up deportation raids. So while still a major step, this could be yet another one of Trump's plans to crack down on migration. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like a Zeebster, then consider joining the TLDR Daily Membership Program for just $1.99. Germany's leading candidate for Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, has sparked a political firestorm after a migration proposal by his conservative CDU-CSU bloc was approved in the German parliament with the support of the far-right AfD. The non-binding motion called on the government to make Germany's border controls permanent and to turn all asylum seekers away at the border, among other things, and was proposed in reaction to the arrest of an Afghan asylum seeker suspected of carrying out a deadly stabbing last week. Yes votes came from the CDU-CSU, which are currently leading in the polls ahead of next month's election, as well as from the AfD, FDP, and some independent MPs, marking the first time in the history of the modern German parliament that a proposal passed solely thanks to AfD support. As such, it represented the breaking of a taboo on cooperation with the far-right party, and drew strong criticism from the governing left-of-centre parties, the SPD and the Greens. It even drew a rare intervention from former CDU leader and Chancellor Angela Merkel, who accused her former rival Merz of going back on a vow he made in November to not seek majorities with the AfD. Merz defended the proposals, saying that they were not wrong just because the, quote, wrong people supported it. With the February 23rd election likely to deliver a victory but not majority for the CDU-CSU, there will inevitably be negotiations to form a coalition government. Merz has ruled out forming a government with the AfD, who are polling in second place, meaning that some kind of CDU-SPD Grand Coalition may be the only option. However, the SPD's leader, Chancellor Olaf Scholz, poured cold water on that idea following the parliamentary vote, saying that he could no longer trust Merz. Next up, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is under investigation by Rome prosecutors over her government's decision to return a Libyan warlord, Osama al-Masri Najim, wanted by the International Criminal Court, back to Libya. The ICC expressed dismay at Italy's failure to hand over Najim, who is wanted to stand trial for crimes against humanity in connection to alleged murders and cases of torture and sexual assault committed at a detention centre that he had overseen for nearly a decade. In a video posted on social media, Meloni defended her government's handling of the case and argued that Najim's arrest had not followed proper procedures, meaning that Italy's appeals court refused to validate Najim's continued detention and ordered him to be freed and deported, given the threat that he posed to Italian public security. International human rights groups have criticised Meloni, though, saying that a person standing trial for such serious crimes shouldn't simply be released on a technicality. Meanwhile, the Italian opposition have criticised her and accused her government of releasing Najim to protect an agreement with Libya to block the departure of migrants crossing the Mediterranean to Italy, a key policy priority for Meloni's government since she came to power in 2022. Meloni, along with her justice and interior ministers, are now under judicial investigation by Rome's chief prosecutor for allegedly aiding and abetting a crime and misuse of public funds. Meloni's supporters swiftly accused the Italian judiciary, which is locked in a battle with the government over plans for sweeping reform of the legal system, of being politically motivated. Next, Donald Trump's controversial choice for health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or RFK Jr., was grilled by Democratic legislators in his first Senate confirmation hearing. And during that intense few hours, topics ranged from Big Macs to anti-vax onesies. Hours ahead of the confirmation hearing, though, Caroline Kennedy, RFK Jr.'s cousin and former US ambassador to Australia, penned a scathing letter about her cousin to senators, describing him as a dangerous predator. Nonetheless, only Democrats appeared to heed her message, as RFK Jr. was only subjected to softball questioning from the Republican side of the aisle. As anticipated, Kennedy was mostly interrogated about his views on vaccination. In response, Kennedy insisted that he wasn't anti-vaccine and that he merely supported more stringent studies. He also claimed that his previous comment that no vaccine is safe and effective was taken out of context. The most heated moment of the hearing occurred when Elizabeth Warren referred to Kennedy's visit to Samoa, where she claimed that as a result of his anti-measles vaccination campaign, 83 people, mostly children, died of the disease. But Kennedy denied that anyone on the island would have been influenced by his stance. In one of the more hysterical moments, Bernie Sanders asked Kennedy whether he was supportive of these onesies, referring to onesies sold by Kennedy's former organization, the Children's Health Defense, which had an anti-vaccine slogan printed on them. But Sanders and Kennedy did find common ground on their attitude towards the pharmaceutical industry, agreeing that the price of medication was disproportionate. Kennedy's populist anti-pharmaceutical industry messaging is widely considered his strongest appeal. Later today, Kennedy will undergo his second confirmation hearing, and due to the Republicans possessing a Senate majority, all Kennedy requires is 3 or fewer Republicans not to vote against him. So if things do end up falling down party lines, it could be good news for him. If this episode isn't enough though, and you want to keep diving into the news, then you should check out Ground News. Take this story about Trump believing that the US will get Greenland, and you can see that 106 outlets are reporting on it, with 31% of those sources leaning left, while 40% lean right. With outlets on the left more likely to describe Trump's attempts to take Greenland as worrying or greedy, while those on the right focus on how important this is to Trump and how serious he is. And this is all possible thanks to our sponsor, Ground News, a website and app developed by a former NASA engineer on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, objective way to read the news. They pull in stories from all over the world and organize them by story, with each coming with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the source's reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. One of my favorite features is their blind spot feed, which shows you stories underreported by one side of the political spectrum or the other. As an impartial news outlet, we're passionate about informing our viewers about bias and helping them to understand how it affects the media they consume. Ground News is very effective at this, showing you exactly how each side of the political divide covers every story you see online. And best of all, Ground News are currently offering viewers 40% off Round's Vantage plan, which includes access to all of their amazing features, like their blind spot feed. This is their biggest discount of the year, so go to ground.news/TLDR, scan the QR code on screen, or use the link in the video description to subscribe today.